fence expert. Who's that guy in that orange shirt? Who must be the fence expert? It's almost time to talk about the fences. It's time to discuss operations and expenses. It's time, it's really time to elevate small businesses. It's time for Joe to drop his knowledge, it's relentless. This rhyme of mine is getting a bit ridiculous. Here we go, we're live with Joe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, everybody? We have a great interview lined up for you today. Before we get into the interview, though, I want to give a shout out to Expert Professional Wood Care Products. Caleb Ashley and the whole team have helped us tremendously. They've helped our business grow, honestly. I believe they can help you, too, if you're interested in using stain. If you're using stain, interested in maybe getting other options, I think you ought to check them out. Now, they're not only a sponsor, they are vendors of ours. We love using their products. Actually, they're a sponsor because they're a vendor, because we love using their products, and I think you would love using them too. Again, Caleb, Ashley, and the team take great care of us. We'll take great care of you as well. So be sure to reach out to Expert Professional Wood Care Products for your next staining project. With all that being said, let's get into the interview. Matt, first and foremost, thank you so much for making yourself available to come on the show.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Now we're going to get into the why here in just a second, but I'm really excited to get into it. Before we get into the why, let's talk about the who. Now, you and I have known each other for quite a while, introduced through Dan Wheeler. If you guys are looking for some more content, or if you listen to the content of Dan Wheeler's, you obviously know Matt. If you don't listen to the content, you absolutely should. Look up the Fence Industry podcast there. Now, but for Matt, Matt, for people that maybe haven't heard the podcast or maybe don't know you personally, how about a brief introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Matt Chiaradonna. I am from the Boston, Massachusetts area. I grew up about 30 miles north of Boston. Fence, just like it has been for you, Joe, it's just kind of been in my family forever. So I was born into the fence company. My grandfather started it in 1972. My dad took over for him in 1985 when I was born. And I just kind of like grew up around it, right? Just out at job sites, sweeping the floor, digging holes in my diapers, whatever I could do to make a mess and get in the mix. And in 2007, I purchased the company from my grandfather. And so I've been heavily involved running the company since 2007. So that's kind of like my background in fence and how I got into the industry.
Absolutely. Well, and you and I actually met through AFA events. You're really active in the AFA. I believe Dan had introduced us at a Fence Tech maybe.
Yep.
But then since then, we our paths keep crossing.
Yep.
This last year, we were mid-year meeting, and then also the Fence Installation School.
Yep.
You're pretty invested as far as your time goes in the American Fence Association, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to be as much as I can. So I am the Northeast chapter president of the American Fence Association. I've been on the board for the last 2.5 years. I've taught at the install school, as you mentioned. So I try to do whatever I can to give back, help the fence industry. Like I said, it's helped my family for, 55 years now. So the least I can do is try to give back a little bit and help some people that came up in my position to make it easier for them, right? Smoother transition than what we did.
Well, yeah, smoother would be nice. Smoother would be nice for sure. Well, and as part of that, the meat and potatoes in the interview today, you're trying to make it even easier. One of the conversations within AFA is obviously one of the initiatives is education, and one of the conversations within education is pathways. Where AFA is a place you can grow. Well, how do we grow? And one of those is employment pathways. Now, you've got an interesting piece of that pie. Can you talk to us a little bit about, and I know it's not done yet, but got a project that we're going to peel back the curtain a little bit on and take a peek inside.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. So just this past year, we've been asked to create a new school for foremen. All right, so basically the lead guy that's going to run crews at your fence installation companies. So I'm super excited about that, to have the opportunity to bring that out. And what we're looking to do is just like a lot of the other schools, right? We know there's salesman school, there's fence installer school. Robert just finished a project manager school, and you can really see the AFA doing a really amazing job, just like you said, of trying to make sure that everybody has a spot where they can either go to learn about what they're doing right now, or if that's the next logical path in their evolution at the fence company, it gives them a way to kind of get an insight on, all right, this is what's next. This is what I can do to be prepared for it. This is what I can do to make a faster ascension up the ranks at my company to, help out the company and help out my family, right? So this foreman school, I'm really excited about bringing in, because that's a really important position at any fence company, right? It's terribly important for a fence install company to have good foremen. So I think it's excellent, and it's definitely needed.
Well, I couldn't agree anymore. And so the fence installation school, first and foremost, is great at what it does, right? We sent a team member through earlier this year or late last year, and with great results. And he came back armed with a lot of knowledge, but you're right in that there's another step above that, right? So great. So he learned the key parts of all the installation. But when we're talking about foremen, right, team leaders, there's a little bit more to it than that. So your course really is kind of a building block on top of the fence installation school. They know exactly what they're doing, but maybe is it more like leadership style driven or a little bit more technical?
Yeah, I'd say it's both, right? So absolutely. I mean, everything we talk about in growth is going to come from leadership. In order to come up the ranks in any company, no matter what we're doing, if we can't learn to lead, first by following, right? We need to learn how to follow first so we can learn how to lead. And then once we know how to lead, that's really what creates growth. You're an entrepreneur. If all we have are a bunch of followers that work for us, we're going to cap out at a certain growth point, right? We're going to hit those ceilings that we just can't go any further. We've led all we can lead. We really want to instill that. I wouldn't say first level of leadership, because you can lead as an installation school member as well. But as that foreman, now we're really asking you to lead, right? We're really asking you to think about more than just yourself. We're asking you to think about your team, or maybe potentially a couple of teams. And so leadership will definitely be a key piece of this, as well as, like you said, more on the technical side as well. We don't always go too deep into reading plans or reading contracts or understanding full bills of materials to load crews up with when we're teaching install school. We're thinking about how to install. So we really want to bring a lot of that thought process. How do we speak with our estimator? How do we understand what the customer spoke about with the estimator? How do we read the contract or blueprints or whatever it is that we're doing, and make sure that they really have a good understanding of how to communicate with the customer, how to communicate with the team, and then lead that install team to, I guess, victory, right? At the end of the day, we want to do a good job. We want to win over the customer, win over our team. So yeah, we want to kind of blend that leadership and technical ability all into the one course.
Absolutely. And one thing it sounds like you guys are doing too, so taking the fence installation skills, but building some systems on top of that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, and like I said, I know everything's not set in stone.
It's okay. We have great ideas, thoughts, right? And maybe it's not set in stone, but like I said, we've been doing fence for a long time. We're going to bring in a bunch of people who have been doing fence for a long time. So our idea is to blend a lot of these standard operating procedures that we see across the country, right, into one that we can really think is going to help out everybody. And so, yeah, there's things that we talk about all the time. I call it a flow chart, right? So I have a flow chart at my company for every position that works for me. What do we do when we come in the morning? And if we hit a roadblock, what's the alternative to what we were supposed to do? Who do I talk to? Who's that next level of management that's going to help me get there? So we really want to try to instill that, right? The technicality of when I come in, who's next above me? And if I can't solve the problem, who should I go to? There are all kinds of procedures with daily, I call them daily logs. Everybody calls them something different, but the office, the scheduling team, they need so much information to be on top of their game. At any given time, a customer could call and want to know something about a current job or a job that's upcoming. And if that information isn't passed appropriately from install team in the field back to that office or back to that management team, they're really unequipped to answer a lot of those questions. So we really want to talk a lot about receiving that daily information, how we're going to organize and clearly give that information back to our leadership so that they can answer those questions. Tools, right? How many times has our installation team left the shop without the proper tools or gotten to the job site and realized they left it at the last one? So instilling daily tool checklists to make sure that our team's equipped with what they need in the field. Even trucks, right? Another thing we think about, probably doesn't get thought about that much, but we've all been there too. I can't tell you how many times my truck is broken down on the way to the job site, right? But why? Always something little that could have been avoided if we just implemented that system into place. So we're going to talk about things like truck checklists, tool checklists, daily logs. So yeah, we really want to instill those principles of standing operating procedures and accountability amongst all the things that are important to our team. And so that'll be a lot of what we talk about and try to teach.
Man, I love that so much. I mean, what you're also teaching is just adding a layer of responsibility onto it as well, right? We already know these guys build great fence and gals. Now, what do we, what's the next step? Well, leadership. Okay, well, there's so much more to it than leadership. I think one thing, and we've been guilty of it in the past, is promoting people that are really good at building fence into a leadership role, but without arming them with the leadership tools, right? And I'm using leadership as just kind of an overall, a terminology, right? And we try to explain to them how we did it. Well, when a crew chief that we'd had or a team leader that we've had in the past that did a really good job said, here's are some things they did, here were some things they thought about. Hopefully they trained with this person, but maybe not all the time. And I think what we're doing there, Matt, is kind of setting them up for frustration, right? Without giving them the tools, but giving them the expectations of this is what I expect to see, this is how I expect it to go, and this is what an ideal project at the end looks like, that sort of thing. But then leaving it up to them to create their own processes, which is dangerous, right? Yes. Because it could work for them, it might not work for other people, or it might not work for them either. So what you guys are doing to bring back what you talked about earlier is bringing some standard operating procedures into the role. So, hey, here's some best practices, and really from across the industry, right? So, I mean, obviously your breadth of knowledge, but you're bringing in kind of some of these standard operating procedures from other parts of the industry as well.
Yeah, that's a huge goal of mine, right? One of the big things I really want to hope to add to this is that I don't want it to be a simple, single-minded idea where one person comes in here and kind of dictates to the rest of the country what a foreman looks like. I really want to make
Sure.
sure that I bring in walks of life from the agricultural world, the residential space, the commercial installation space, and we're a huge country, and Canada involved too, right? There's so many breaths of life that can come into this conversation that yes, we just want to try to get the best ideas from all the areas, all the types of fence installation, and then build a list of best practices. We're going to throw a bunch of ideas out there, and as a team, we're going to vote on which of those ideas we believe are the cream of the crop, and we're going to use those top ideas to build our best practices. But we don't want it to be, a Northeast base or a Southwest based, right? We want it to be a blend of everybody so that everybody's got their voice heard.
Well, I think it's a great idea too, bringing in basically the different sectors of the fencing industry, right? Because a foreman could look very different on a residential crew than looks on a commercial or an agricultural crew, because the jobs are going to be varied, right? The jobs themselves, the fencing projects themselves, are going to look very different from one to the next. But I have a feeling there's some, there's some consistencies throughout all of those. There's some basic standards that can be applied. And maybe there's some standards that are applied in commercial that a residential crew could really benefit from. They just never had the opportunity to think about it in a different light.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And, what you say is as you get the opportunities to work in the fence industry and you're in the AFA and the other types of industries that I'm involved in, the one thing that really does glare to me about our industry that's so different than others is how we have such few standard operating procedures amongst the country. And while that can be beneficial in some way, shapes, or form, because I get it, every area is built differently as far as people, as far as ground conditions, all that. Yeah, we're going to have some differences, but what I think the best part about the AFA is that it's finally starting to give us this ability to create these standards across the country, and that's only going to make us more powerful. That's only going to make us more valuable as companies. Electricians and plumbers, they have these ways of doing things that they vary a little, but not by that much, right? Like
Sure.
you could jump into an electrician software and they're all going to use the same thing. You start talking about like fence companies and they're just so different that makes it hard for an investing company to come in there and look at you because, 10 different companies that they own might behave 10 different ways. So, man, what better way than these classes to take the best practices, like you said, that maybe we didn't even know about in the residential space, but the ag guys have been doing so well for decades. And we didn't even know we could incorporate that, right? And the ag guys might say the same thing about us and commercial. And so, yeah, it would be so great to see over these next few years of these classes to help us build a standard that the nation that, can all work by. Maybe we're not exactly the same, but everything we do to get closer to a standard is way more powerful for us as an industry.
Absolutely. Well, and we've already seen kind of a version of that in the fence installation school, right?
Yes.
Talking about that digging conditions aren't the same across the United States, right? I mean, they're not the same across the city that
Exactly.
that I operate in, much less.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the fence installation school has found a great way of distilling that down to core best practices.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I saw when we were watching this is, okay, so when we're teaching this, we're saying, or the AFA is saying, hey, here's how we would do it. Your experience may vary. And also having some people in that are going through the fence installation school kind of weigh into how they would attack a problem. I've got to think that it's going to look fairly similar with the foreman course as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hopes and goals. Exactly correct. And as you say, that builds up from level to installation, to foreman, to project manager, to operations manager, right? And the AFA is putting all these amazing school together. You can really see this, building in front of our eyes, and it's exciting. It's awesome. Really excited.
Well, and I think also, so talking about different sectors of the fencing industry, the residential, commercial, agriculture, et cetera, but you had mentioned also talking about geographically different, right?
Yeah.
In that leadership structures can look very different in different parts of the country and even within the same parts of the country too, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what you're doing is bringing that information kind of to the greater industry as a whole, right? Say, hey, in the Northeast, this is something that I guess we do particularly well. But when we met with some guys from the Pacific Northwest, they showed us some other version of this. And so we're marrying the two to come up with this overall process that works better for both of us.
Absolutely. Yep. And just like you said, there's going to be people who are going to take those and say, wow, 80% of that is going to really, really help me, but I need to morph this 20% to my specific area, to my specific team. And that's great. That's, encouraged. That's growth, right? That's helping everybody get better. But at least if we can do our best to bring that 80% to the table, it might be 100% for some people. It might be 70 for others. But if we can, by average, get everybody real, real close, we're doing our job. We're helping, organize these best practices together for them.
Absolutely. And so we're talking about different sectors, different geographical locations. But another thought that I'd had was this also is good for a variety of size companies.
Sure.
Right. Everything from the owner operator that's wanting to transition out of the field and start, building the business side of it. Really needs a foreman that knows what they're doing. So this person can impart all the knowledge that they can. They can show and they can lead and they can do this, but it stands to reason that person would have a tremendous amount of value from this course, sending them saying, hey, that you've seen how I do it. Now I'd love for you to also learn from kind of the top leading industry experts as far as this goes, and bring back that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Everything from the owner operator up.
And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier with it, that what happens a lot in small businesses, not just our sector of fence, but the owner-operator does know how to do all these things, probably very well, better than anybody that they can hire. But they know how to do it because they've done it so many times, and they're going off of what they know. They didn't write it down. They never sat there and said, well, every day I do this and this, and when I hit this roadblock, this is my way of fixing it. So like you said, they hire somebody new that maybe shadows them for a month, and in the owner-operator's mind, it's, I'm so busy, I got to get back to doing what I was doing. He should know by now. I've showed him, right? But like you said, that causes those frustrations. So yeah, I think that's exactly who would benefit from this, because we'll help them to spend that time in school to build those operating procedures. So when they go back, they're not leaving somebody with, hey, you shadowed me for a month, so now repeat what I did. It's, hey, these are the operating procedures that we've built for you. And again, if you're owner operating, do you have a lot of time? I mean, maybe. Do you have a lot of time to build these operating procedures, to spend the time documenting everything that you're doing? Often not, right? Often you're looking at jobs, answering the phones, ordering the materials, out on installs, and then you go home. Do you want to? No, but if you could take that time and spend this course, maybe you get that figured out at this course, and now you can bring it back and it's there. It's ready to go.
Absolutely. Well, or refine the process that you've already got.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
To say, hey, I've always ever done it this way because that's how I've always ever done it. Now, it makes sense to maybe systematize this a little bit more so that someone else can learn a little bit quicker on whatever the process is. The reason this person excelled through the company, whether it's owner operator or otherwise, is because they're great at doing the thing. It's not necessarily that they were great at teaching the thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So it sounds like that's what you guys are doing, is one, helping optimize maybe someone's operating procedures that they already have, or arming them with procedures they hadn't thought about, but also giving them a way to teach that as well, and a path to growth that they can instill in their companies.
Yep, absolutely. And the great part for me is I get to be involved in all of this too. So I get to learn and I get to improve my skills. So not only do I get to help out to bring some stuff, but I get to learn from everybody that we bring around us. And so I selfishly get the best part of the job here. So it's awesome. But yeah, I'll be looking at this, refining mine, right? Everything I hear from these leaders that we bring in, I'm going to pick every great idea that I can and implement it. So it's awesome.
Well, and we've seen that with other areas of the AFA education, right? That the programs do go under a revolution of, hey, all right, we've started with 1.0, but as we've started teaching this and we've gained some knowledge from elsewhere in the industry, folks that are going through it, now it's time for a 2.0 or a 3.0. So I say that to say, while 1.0 is going to be incredible, I mean, consider that what 2.0 and 3.0 will look like after just taking in all of this information and trying it and breaking it and fixing it and growing the program. Yep. I mean, I'm excited just for the program to get started, but also, I mean, can you imagine 10, 15 years from now what that program's going to look like? I
I
mean, it'll
hope
be
we'll be
incredible.
on this show talking about it. Somebody else will be in charge of it, and we'll be looking back saying, "Wow, look at how far they took that. We never would have guessed." But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun time to be part of the American Fence Association right now with all of this type of innovation and growth that's happening. I'm a growth guy. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Just like you, I get nervous when things are staying the same. I like the chaos. I want it to change.
Right.
I want it to go. So this is great for me. I love sitting here, being part of watching this all happen.
Well, I was having this conversation with someone else a few days ago that, the last handful of years have been incredible for the industry as a whole, have been incredible to watch the growth go, just how explosive the growth has been. Education's a big part of that, right? Because I think there's a big need for education. I mean, there's different groups right now providing education, and it seems like they can't keep up just because the industry as a whole is realizing, hey, just because I do it this way and it's profitable and it's repeatable, but just because that's my way doesn't mean I can't improve on it.
Exactly.
Right? That I can't go be in a room with 20 or 30 other professionals and glean little bits of information from each one of them, come back and do it just a little bit better. I think there was this perceived notion, Matt, a while ago that the education was for kind of newcomers to the industry.
Sure.
Right? That if you've done it for a while, you already kind of know what you're doing. I think as an industry, we're coming around to the fact that I can be better. I can go learn from others that have also figured it out, and we can all be better through kind of this combined education.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've heard the saying a million times, if you stop growing, you die, right? Same thing with us personally, same things with our business. It's no good to sit on our laurels and think, I've been doing this so well for so long and look at me making money. It's always, who can I sit next to? Who's done it to the next level? Who can I get an experience share from that can help me to make that next problem not so bad or that next issue not so crazy for me? And man, it's an awesome time to be a part of it.
Well, what is it? The most expensive phrase in a company is because we've always ever done it that way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And this seems like a solution to that too, right? Just say, I mean, I could see us sending our foreman through to say, hey, I know we're doing great, we're killing it, business is solid, but I think we can become incrementally better, right? I think we can learn a little bit more, and if nothing else, arm you with contacts from other folks just like you throughout the country.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you're hitting it on the head again, but there's nothing that can replace that networking, right? I mean, no matter what area that they're from, they're dealing with a lot of the same day-to-day issues, whether their help was on time or they didn't show up at all, they were overstaffed or understaffed, the problems with, there's so many things that they'll all have come into contact with or will eventually come into contact with, that if you've got 10 people in your class, that you can call at a hat's drop and get an answer from. I mean, how much more powerful is that person in their job the next day than they were when they didn't have those contacts? It's a really good piece.
Well, we saw that at Fence Installation School recently, right? Is that these teams were put in place. They're all in a group text. And I was talking to our guy here that had gone through that. I was like, hey, are you still keeping up with those people? He's like, yeah, we do kind of daily check-ins, see what everyone's doing. We post pictures of work we're working on. We're just, we're kind of staying in touch with each other. I could see that also going on the foreman level too, right?
Absolutely.
Saying, hey, to your point, here's some pain points that we're coming across. How do you guys solve for them? Or here's something I've done, but this one way just isn't quite jiving. I say that to say the coursework is important, right? The school is important, but the learning doesn't stop at the school. No. The learning continues, almost indefinitely into the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. But still, as you're learning, there are two ways. And this is something I just did a podcast the other day from an entrepreneurs group that I'm in. And she asked kind of, if you could go back to the younger you and you could reteach yourself things that you know now, what would you have done different? And my thing is that I waited too long to go look for the mentors. I waited too long to go ask for the help. I waited too long to be in a room full of professionals that I could talk to. I always thought, well, if I didn't fix it myself, maybe I was less of a boss or less of an owner. Maybe if I couldn't do it, I had less pride, and I got to figure this out, right? But how many times did I fall down and mess up and cost money that I didn't need to? I just needed to get outside of my comfort level, go sit in a room full of people who had already been through that, done that, and I could have gotten through all of those problems so much faster. I could have cost myself so much less money, but I just didn't. And then when I finally did, I was like, you're kidding. Wait, I could have gotten all that just from picking the phone. Like, so yeah, it's huge. It's almost irreplaceable. There's no way to put a monetary value on that part, right? Like, that is everything. That's growth.
And to your point, one of the reasons someone might not ask for help is because they think that they're, hey, surely everyone else has already figured this out. I don't want to put myself out there as not knowing it. I mean, we're seeing that in some of the Facebook groups with these anonymous posts, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't want to put my name on this question.
It can't be me, but I need the answer.
But what we're seeing in the comment section a lot of times on those is there's a lot of people having the same problem or a version of the problem. Yep. And you're like, hey, I've thought about this too. Or we're also seeing help in the comment section. So I think one of the things this is going to do also is give someone, a more comfortable space to ask those questions, or say, hey, this is someplace that I would like to grow. How did you guys find growth in whatever whether it's a leadership skill or whatever it might be? You're giving also people kind of a forum to ask those questions in a comfortable type environment.
Absolutely. Around their industry peers that are doing the same things as them. So it really does. It helps them sit there thinking, everybody here is thinking what I'm thinking, questioning what I'm questioning. A question I ask might not just help myself. It might help everybody in the room. Like they say, there's no dumb question. And that's true. It's so true. Like, just because you think that the question might not help everybody else in the room, you'd be surprised. Something you ask might be sitting on someone else's mind and they don't want to ask it. And you didn't just help yourself. You helped 5 other people sitting there. So it's just ask away.
I think you can be good.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So Matt, I know we're still in the very beginning stages of this, still kind of assembling the team. Well, let's talk about the team for a second.
Sure.
Still assembling the team, but there's some few key pieces that are already in place.
Yeah. So you already had alluded to my relationship with Dan Wheeler. Very close with Dan ever since he started the podcast. I've really respected what he's doing, his care and passion for the industry, and he's an excellent fence installer. I've worked with him twice at the fence installation school. Really respect what he does. So I've asked him to be part of the team, both for his fencing knowledge and for his ability to get this information out to the fence world, right? Just like you. And I thank you so much for having me on the show, because this is how we can network this and get more people involved to make it better. So Dan's part of the team, and just another person who I highly respect, Justin Neary. He's been teaching the ag school for installation for a long, long time, a big ag guy. And I really feel like that sector of the industry is so big, awesome, so amazing. And I really wanted to have them be part of this. I didn't want their voice to not be heard in the space. So myself, Dan, and Justin had our first meeting last week. We've already assembled quite an awesome list of people who we're going to talk about next week and kind of try to narrow it down. There was way too many people on it to have on a board, but we're going to kind of all go in there. And like everything I usually do, we're all going to pick 7 names and vote, and whichever 4 names got the most votes, they're the ones that we're going to go with. So we all kind of have our say. So yeah, we'll be able to announce hopefully by Fence Tech who we've asked to be on the board and who will be part of this team. And then Fence Tech's kind of our tip-off point. We want to meet up there. We want to get the ball rolling and really push this thing forward. So yeah, those are the 2 with myself that are going to build the team, but we're hoping to add another 4 or 5 people onto the team here by February so we can really get cranking with this.
I love it. So once the team's assembled, what do you think the roadmap looks like for kind of assembling the program?
Yeah, so I'm kind of one of those, once I get that, thing in my hands, I don't stop. I go crazy. So I say that worst case, it'll be next November when the installation school comes back into play. I'd like to have it ready to go by then, whether it's going to be offered then or it's going to be offered at, the following Fence Tech in Indianapolis. That'll be up to the higher ups than me in the space. But we already have started meeting monthly. We plan on meeting monthly for the first 2 or 3 months here to assemble information. After the first month or 2, we'll move it to bi-monthly, where we'll meet twice a month. First off, we're just going to start off with understanding what the position is when it reports to the office and what its flow chart is throughout the day. We'll probably just get all those ideas put together so that this foreman knows what they do and when they do it. And then after that, we're going to really put together the finer details. Like you said, okay, with that knowledge in place, how do we organize the team in the morning? How do we make sure that the tools get on the truck? How do we make sure we don't leave without the right products? How do we make sure our communication with customer and team is perfect? And so we'll build out the what we do, and then we'll build out how we do each one from there. And again, the goal would realistically be by November of next year, so a little under 12 months from now, I'd really like to have that first iteration ready to be presented.
Well, and that really makes sense because so not only the fence installation school in November, but also this last year, there's also the fence business school. There's a sales training school. So the AFA is really kind of putting together as much of a one-stop shop as possible as far as the training, to where if you can get a team and get them to, in this case, it was Tulsa, then you can really train anything from your sales team to your installation team, your business managers, that sort of thing. So this is another kind of an easy piece to plug into that to say, okay, so you've had guys go through the installation school. Now they're ready for leadership. Well, let's bump them up to the foreman training and run them through that same school.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all being in one place, I really feel like is huge. So I'm a sports guy, so I use like analogies with this all the time. But if you've got a high school and you've got a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team, right? Our helper, our foreman, our project manager, if each of the coaches aren't communicating with one another and one is teaching a 2-3 zone, and then they leave that and they go to man, and then they leave that and they go to a full court press. Like, as they move, it's confusing because I just learned all this and now I have to relearn all this. I feel like having it all in one, it's that the installation team is teaching a certain way and we know that way. So we can build off that way so that when they leave there and come to us, we're teaching on those same principles, right? And when they leave us to go up to the varsity team, they've already learned 2/3 of the playbook from freshman and JV, and they're going to go learn on top of, not learn brand new. And so hopefully by having, your team come to an AFA instruction, it's not, you're going to go over here to teach an installer, then you're going to go to a different program to teach, a project manager, because if you're trying to relearn all the time, you're never really going to get it down pat. So I really think that that's powerful as well. Using the AFA for those stages means that you're getting some continuity to the system.
Absolutely. Well, and you're providing a more clear pathway as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And the how we grow mandate, or the how we grow section of the AFA, is trying to do that, right? Showing a pathway to growth to say, this is where you start in the industry, but this isn't where you end up, right? This is you're on the path, but here's what the pathway looks like. And I tell you what, I've got to give it to you guys. I say you guys as the men and women that are putting these educational, subjects together, right? That because also you alluded to project management. Those courses are being worked. Operations management is out there. I mean, the pathways are so varied, right? Like there's so many different ways to go off that you and I know them because we've been in the industry forever, and we've seen other companies that have, different pathways within their company. But for someone just coming in, it's not that clear of a path, right? To say, well, I don't want to be in the field for the rest of my life. Right. Okay. Well, there's complete other pathways. Maybe you want to go into sales. Great. We've got that. Or operations or project management or leadership, whatever it might be. I've got to give it up to you guys on putting the work in and really trying to make that pathway more clear. I think us as companies will be better for it. To your point, being involved in it lets you see firsthand. But also, I feel like the industry is going to be better for it, right? By having a clear pathway that is more inviting for someone to come in. You see this in other industries where they'll have clear pathways of employment to say, hey, this is where you start, but if you want to get here, this is the pathway. And I feel like we're missing out on opportunities for having great team members come into our organizations because there isn't a clear pathway.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the most common complaint, right? It's like, I don't want to be stuck in the field. I don't want to install fence my whole life. Okay. Now there's some guys that do not want to leave the field, and that's great too.
Yes.
But I feel like we're missing out on opportunities because that's a perception of there really isn't a pathway to success, right? Or to growth. And anyway, that's a really long-winded compliment to you guys.
You're hitting. I appreciate it. Like you too. You're part of this. You bring all the education out through your voice, and you're so right. My company included, we all for how many years have said it's so hard to keep good help. It's so hard to retain these people. And well, why? Because these great industries that do keep them, that, you listen to these podcasts about all these great entrepreneurs over time, the Fords, the Carnegies, whatever, like they had clear paths. It was run like it was a business. It wasn't run like a family business. It was run like it was a true organization, right? They knew that they could progress, that their raises would be based off of certain things. I don't know, but I don't think that a lot of fence companies out there have that built into their system, that they know when they come that they'll start at this rate and that these are clear paths and expectations that level them up to where they advance, they graduate. And I think bringing that into the industry is going to save and help a lot of people, trouble. So yeah, we just started about 2 or 3 years ago, really implementing that into my company, into JC Fence, where you start off at this level. Here's your pay rate. Here's your 5 clear measurables that if you accomplish over this quarter, you'll get your raise or you won't. Right? It's no longer at my whim. Well, I feel like I'm afraid I'm going to lose them. I better give them a raise, or, they're okay. I'm not, no, it's clear, it's accountable, and they know their pathway. And like you said, the AFA is doing that. They're building that blueprint for, okay, you can take what we're teaching and turn it into your blueprint for success at your company, and they can follow it. Right. So that's such a big addition to any company, any organization.
Agreed. And even a well-run company that's been established for generations can take something like this and optimize their process.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Like that's exactly what as we're having this conversation, that's what's going through my mind is I feel like this is a great opportunity for Ozark Fence to benefit from their industry affiliations and associations, right? Is that we can refine what we do, right? By tapping into your knowledge, by tapping into Dan's knowledge, by Justin's knowledge, and whoever else is going to be on the team, we can all be better together. Right? We can always optimize.
Yep. Awesome stuff.
I love it. Matt, thank you so much for making the time to come on. I hope that, maybe we'll get past Fence Tech, maybe circle back around and get an update. But I'd like to have you come in and kind of check in regularly to say, hey, how's the course going? Give you an opportunity to ask, if there's an ask from the industry on, hey, we could use some feedback on this and this, I'd like to do regular check-ins just to keep up with you guys and see how it's going.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'm a big fan of the show. Always been a big fan of what you do, and I thank you for what you do for the industry. It's huge. What you guys have done has really shown. You can see it every day getting better and better. So it would be my pleasure to come back. I thank you. And any questions anybody has, I'm always an open book. Happy to answer.
I love it. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. For now, Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences, Matt,
make good neighbors.
Nailed it. We'll see you guys next time.